So I'm just about to press it. All right, we are live. First time in a while I've been live, not with Brian Combe, but with my long-haired friend, my long-haired tank-topped friend, Ben. Hey, what's up?
Hi, Elan. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be on the main. I've been on the main feed all summer. I don't know. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, talking with me. Just you could say it.
I am excited to talk to you, Elan. I feel like it's always a experience, always a bit of a scene when the two of us hop on the mic.
I think there's
mics
the
together.
most disagreements per minute of podcasting when it's the two of us, but we'll see. We'll see
I
if
feel
we're on
like
the same
too,
page or
though,
not.
it's rarely like you and me being like, you are completely wrong about this. It's like one of us being like, I'd put them at like 5 or 6 points more or whatever.
Right. Like,
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Respectfully, I don't know about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to start the recording, an important part of any podcast. So one sec on that front. Let's get that going here. Okay, record the Zoom. All right. I think we're good to go. So, oh yeah, I have announcements to make at the start of the show. I need to remember. I guess we're also announcing this giveaway, right, Ben? Should we do that at the beginning also? I want to announce a couple of dates.
I think what we should do is we should say at the end of the show, we're going to give a hashtag to use to add us on Twitter with hashtag, and we'll choose it at the end.
Okay.
But we'll say that, like, listen through, and then we'll give it out.
But not like today. Like, we're not like, we need people, like, people download the show and listen, and then we'll pick it like the winner next time. Yeah. And how many do we have to give away?
5?
Damn. All right. Okay. So that's that. And then the couple dates we announced. Okay, great. All right. Let's start. Oh, and I need a joke to start.
It's some really good people in this chat right now, eh? Like
Kevin, John, and Shams. Wow.
Are these all? I think these are all Babupful competitors too.
I think so. Yeah.
Our league mates are here,
including the Babupful champ.
That's correct. Oh, we have a Bebop and a K-Cup champ in the house.
Oh boy. Okay, better not blow it now in front of this impressive audience. It's like that time Jerry was doing stand-up, and then he found out that the pilot was in the audience, and it threw him off.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, I mean, you probably don't get that reference, but it was killer. Trust me.
You don't think I watched Seinfeld?
And she was like, "I don't want you to freak out, but the pilot is in the crowd." Like, I don't care. Then it did freak him out.
I need a vibe check from the chat. Do I look like someone who hasn't seen Seinfeld? I feel like I look like someone who has seen Seinfeld before.
I don't think you sound like someone who has seen Seinfeld. I don't know if you look like someone who's seen Seinfeld.
What does that mean, Elan?
I don't know. I don't know if the key demographic is like skater dudes. Where I don't know, like
I want to hear. No, give me the full. I want to
know. I'm not like a culture critic. Like, I don't know the different demographics and the different margins. All I know is that when I picture people who like Seinfeld, I don't picture this look that you're giving me right now.
That is so messed up of you.
But
you
yeah,
so
it's
close-minded.
Stereotype. I know.
I'm just kidding.
All right. While you I'm gonna think of a joke here. Hosted by a guy who, and what are we talking about again on this episode? I'll just say something about the couple because
there you go.
Okay. All right. Let's do the show. Yes! Welcome everybody to another episode of the Keeping Karlsson Fantasy Hockey Podcast, the longest running fantasy hockey podcast in the world, hosted by a guy who is so excited about the announcements coming up today. In just a moment, I'm your host, Elan Dubrowski, and with me is my good friend, the fantasy hockey robot, Brian. Oh, psych, just kidding. It's not Brian Combe. I am being joined by the man who's been busy all summer interviewing all of the beat writers for your favorite NHL teams. It's Short Shift's co-host, the great Ben Burnett. Welcome to a special episode of Keeping Karlsson, Ben. Oh, you're muted.
Right off top with the, I would say I'm in off-season mode, but obviously I'm in. I can't even use that excuse because, as you said, I've been doing the beat writer.
Wait, this is all off the air, by the way. This is like I don't want
What?
to start the show with like you're muted and then an awkward
I
thing.
made a great joke about it afterward, though. That was. Hey,
That's for the live
here's a reference
show.
that I might not get. That's gold, Jerry, gold, right? Because
You know,
before
there's
the show started, if again, everybody should know that Elan told
they'll
me I look like
know
someone who hasn't seen Seinfeld.
they'll know because this whole bit is for the live show and YouTube crowd who saw everything. But now for those people that want the pristine, perfect, no mistakes downloaded version of the podcast, I've just said, "Welcome to the show, Ben."
Who wants the pristine version? People like raw. People like the edge. That's what they come to. That's what. Look at me.
Oh my god!
What are you doing here if you're
I
not
gotta
looking
clear
for
my
edge?
night.
Yeah. All right. We're already fighting. Do you want me to say what?
Go from where I said, "Welcome to the show, Ben."
Thank you so much, Elan. I am very happy to be here. Of course, as you mentioned, I've been doing the beat writer interview series on the feed most of the summer already. You told Lewis and I at the end of last season that one of us had to stay in the short shifts lab through the summer, and so I've been locked up here, obviously growing my hair out and just trying not to let you down.
Well, you definitely haven't. I've been really enjoying having you captive and getting all these great tidbits from all the people you've interviewed. And yeah, it's been a real fun blast listening to you doing these interviews. If people haven't been keeping up, like, I don't know what to tell you, but you've been missing a lot of good stuff. Most recently, I apologize. Most recently, Ben talked to Jesse Marshall about the Penguins. There was a really good one with Arthur Staple about your favorite New York Rangers. Alan Mitchell about the Oilers. It's been a really fun ride. Also, I had that one with about the Coyotes, which, by the way, I don't know if you listened to it yet, Ben. You never know. You always think that a Coyotes interview is going to be like 5 minutes long because who was there to talk about. There was some spice when we got to Jacob Chychrun. Like, that was an unexpected, very interesting part of the podcast. It almost seemed like Craig Morgan was personally not happy with how things have been going down. So anyway, that's what's been in the past. Also, recently, Brian and I did a podcast where we talked about some of the players who people are predicting are going to be surprises to us come a year from now. People that we're going to be talking about, we did not expect the season they just had. And Ben and I are going to build on that because we're going to more specifically now in this show just look at players who we expect to have different point paces from last year to this year. We're looking at, it could be for whatever reason. It could be because of a situation change from over the summer, like they changed teams. It could be because something on their team changed. They're going to have better line mates. It could be a hunch. We could just be like, I think all of a sudden Martin Necas is a superstar now, and he's just been holding it back. Like, whatever the reason, we're going to get to it. So Ben and I are just going to go back and forth one by one until we run out of time. So that's the plan for this show. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Before we get to that, a couple of announcements. First of all, Keeping Karlsson very proudly presented by DobberHockey.com, the #1 fantasy hockey website out there, and the makers of that amazing Dobber Hockey Guide, which we're going to be giving away some copies of that guide. So stay tuned to the end of the show where we'll tell you how you can enter a raffle? What do you call it when it's like on Twitter and it's like people have to tweet at us with a hashtag? Do you call that still a raffle, or do you need paper to have a raffle?
I think it's just called a giveaway.
A giveaway. Yeah, we're having
a
giveaway.
Contest.
Don't skip ahead to the end just to get your Dauber guide. I'm not going to put it in the show notes so people won't know it's coming, and then they just like go, and download the show. I guess a download's a download, right? Why am I being picky? Anyway, that's announcement number one. Announcement number two is the Keeping Karlsson Ultimate Patron Fantasy League, the Cupful, this league that we painstakingly put together every year and try to make the best experience for people playing in it. It's coming up. Like, we're going to be drafting in less than a month. The deadline to register to play in the Cupful is September 8th. So all you got to do, if you're not registered yet, if you're a patron, it's easy. Just there's a Slack channel called Cupful Registration. It tells you everything you need to know. If you're not a patron of Keeping Karlsson, become a patron. We give you a ton of perks, including participation in the Cupful. By the way, the Cupful, this like tiered league. If you've never played in it before, you're going to start in the bottom tier, but still against a great competition because it's patrons of Keeping Karlsson. And then if you win, you're going to climb up, and before you know it, you'll be playing against people like Ben and myself to claim the title of best fantasy hockey player in the whole frickin' world. Well, maybe by then I'll have fallen off. But you'll at least be playing Ben on your way to the top. And yeah, we've announced a couple cool rule changes for next year. It's all described in the Discord there. But one big fun one is this third round reversal. I think Brian and I talked about it on an episode where now the third round of the snake draft is flipped so that it's not as big of an advantage to go first overall. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff. We're talking about it on the Discord. So become a patron at keepingkarlsson.com/patron for just $5 a month. You'll get in the couple. You'll come hang out in our Discord for the season. So we'll be able to help you in your leagues. You are going to get access to our patron cast, which we do once a month, and some other perks. And you're supporting our show. So if you like the show, you want to join a new league, $5 a month. What is that? A cup of coffee? What do people say? A cup of coffee a month. That's nothing. Come on. Okay. So anyways, that's my promotion there by just yelling, come on, at the listeners. But yeah, once again, that's September 8th. You've got to be registered to guarantee yourself a spot. If you're listening to this, you can be in. We will make room for you, but you got to register by September 8th. But okay, with that, Ben, let's get into it. Let's get into our lists here. We've both compiled this. We haven't talked to each other in advance, so we could have all duplicates here. Since you're the guest first, why don't you throw at me the first player that you think is going to have a different point pace from last year, this year?
Okay, I'll be honest with you, Elan. This one is a cop-out answer. It's not gonna be all cop-outs, but I just had one honorable mention that I don't consider part of my regular list, but because you're throwing it to me off top, I'll mention him at the top. This is a player who would have been on my list, Max Pacioretty. I'd have probably forecasted him down from his team swapping. Obviously, the torn ACL means that it doesn't really matter, and it's going to be very tough to project. Who knows what he'll do when he comes back from the torn ACL, like probably in January or February. But one thing I wanted to say about Pacioretty that I've been reflecting on since I chatted with Jesse Granger for the Beat Writer series is I started thinking about this trade through the lens of the PK Subban to New Jersey trade, where everyone was like, oh my God, look at this absolute fleecing by the Devils. And then we find out, oh, PK Subban is not the same guy anymore. There are some injuries that are going to linger and keep him from ever hitting that level that he hit when he was one of the top 5 or top 3 defensemen in the league for a period. I think there may have been some concern in Vegas about Pacioretty's health prior to this trade. And so I just am mentioning him as an honorable mention, not obviously because of the injury, but just that I think that prior to this, he would have been on my list.
Interesting. Okay, so I guess with Pacioretty, you're saying that you even thought before the injury he wasn't going to be able to keep it up. The thing is, last season, it's not like he had the most amazing year. Like, he started really strong, and then after he came back from his injury, he wasn't as good, and you could blame it on the injury. But of course, you could then say that injury will continue, and now he's got a whole new thing that he's dealing with. And so, okay, it's fair enough. I think the one interesting thing with the Pacioretty injury news is that Carolina, of course, lost Vincent Trocheck to free agency in the offseason, which then, Pacioretty came in. So I was just thinking, okay, I guess the power play is, no big change. Like, no one remaining on the team gets an improved opportunity because Trocheck leaves, Pacioretty comes in. Now, all of a sudden, obviously we're going to have Aho, Teravainen, and Svechnikov. That's 3 of the people on the top power play. I assume Brent Burns, unless, you're a Jacob Slavin truther, is going to be the defenseman there. But there's still a forward spot, which now is like up for grabs. And I don't know, like, I guess Seth Jarvis got some runs last year, and he's an up and coming prospect that maybe this year he'll be able to break out a little bit with an improved opportunity. He played a lot last year on the first line with Aho. And then you've also got the aforementioned Martin Necas, who last year got some really rotten deployment by the end of the year and wasn't sniffing the top power play. I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think those are the top 2 contenders to start the year on PP1. So I'm not going to add them to my list because I'm not so confident even on which one it'll be. And maybe it'll switch back and forth. But I think both of those guys now are worth watching in training camp to see who gets the top power play, who gets a top 6 spot that they maybe wouldn't have gotten. Because it's a pretty plump spot. There's a lot of good players on that top power play, along with whoever gets there.
So yeah, I think probably it's Seth Jarvis. That would be my inclination and my expectation. One note I'll make is that prior to this past season, Jordan Stahl was infuriatingly a fixture on that top unit. And God, wouldn't that be just like an NHL coach?
Come on,
to put a Jordan Stahl just to in the bumper spot or whatever, and just to mess with everybody drafting and getting excited over Seth Jarvis. I'm not saying I think that'll happen, but I will just note that 2021, this man Jordan Stahl had more power play minutes than Marty Necas, the guys who we were hoping would get that shot.
Yeah, I guess stranger things have happened. I hope that that's not the case, like you say, because it's not like we're going to start recommending for people to go and grab Jordan Stahls. I'd rather it be someone more exciting. I guess Kakaniemi is there. A lot of people are saying he's going to take over as a second line center. So maybe I should at least mention him as a possibility. So we don't know. Okay. Pacioretty's injured. We're going to see what the Hurricanes do. But okay, so that was your honorable mention. Does that mean it's my turn? Do I start the official list since Pacioretty was your honorable mention? I could.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
You should start because you have a few, based on the conversation we had prior to this, it sounds like you have a couple more people than me anyway.
I've unlimited. I could go all night. I'm going to go until you tell me, Elan, I got to go. Okay.
Okay.
But, well, I want to do an honorable mention now. Okay. Just for fun, since you did.
Okay.
How about David Krejci? I just want to throw him out there. He had a 0-point pace last year because he left town, went back to his home country and played there and did pretty well. But the previous year, when he was in the NHL back in 2020-21, which isn't that long ago, it's just 2 seasons ago, he had 44 points in 51 games. That's a 71-point pace, nothing to sneeze at. He really took off. If you recall, that's the year that the Bruins traded for Taylor Hall at the deadline, and he and Hall played together on the second line and did really well together. So now David Krejci is coming back to the Bruins. First of all, Marchand is injured for a little while to start the year, which isn't good news, obviously, but it does increase Krejci's chances of being on the top power play to start the year. Plus, I'd imagine they're going to want to see how he gels with Hall, considering they did so well before. Last year, it was Hall, Pasternak, and like a Haula on that second line. Imagine Pasternak is on the second line with Hall and Krejci, leaving Bergeron to play with DeBrusk and whoever. I don't know. Maybe it becomes a more defensive line while we're waiting for Marchand to come back. I don't know what's going to happen with the Lions, but all I'm saying is I think David Krejci is going to be a top power play guy and probably will play with at least Taylor Hall, maybe someone like a Pasternak even on that line that he's going to center. So I'm not saying he's going to be insane. I'm not going to say draft him as a 70-point guy like he was a couple seasons ago, but I'm not leaving him undrafted in my drafts. Like if he's available, we're coming to the end and people have been sleeping on him. I don't see why he can't be a 60-ish point player, at least to start the year. And then we'll see, when Marchand comes back, if then all of a sudden Pasternak, like things change. He's off the top power play. Obviously, you can reassess. I'm not saying draft him as someone that's a guaranteed hold all year, but I think Krejci will definitely beat the 0-point pace from last year. So he counts as an honorable mention, and he's definitely someone on my radar in my drafts if he falls far enough.
Yeah, I would swing on David Krejci in like the last 2 or 3 rounds of a draft. I'm a little bit less excited about him just based on, like you said, to answer like your thought about what they'll do with Patrice Bergeron in the interim while Brad Marchand is out. I think he plays with David Pasternak. I think that this is probably a situation where they split up Pasternak and Hall to give the top line an actual top line flair. Like I don't see a situation in which Bergeron is skating around with scrubs. There is no point in the Bruins doing that, just wasting Patrice Bergeron essentially. So I do think that probably hurts Krejci in the short term. I think he can be a 60-point guy, but really not a shooter, really not a guy who like is going to be worth rostering when he's not putting up points. And that scares me a little bit. I'm getting vibes of like when Jonathan Taves missed a season and then we all got excited about Taves coming back as a guy who was 34. And like, the last time we saw him, he was a 70-point guy. Like, why can't he do that again? And in this case, he's 2 years older than Taves. Obviously, a lot of miles on David Krejci. Has been in the league for, 15, 16 years. Yeah, I'm not as bullish on Krejci. I would give him a shot late because of like you said, the deployment is there where he could be somebody who's worth rostering for sure. And that's what the last few rounds are for, is to take those swings. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I can definitely see why you would mention David Krejci, and I'm not trying to poo-poo him off the table.
Yeah, yeah. And but to be fair, also, while Jonathan Taves missed a season because he was injured, David Krejci missed a season because he was over in Czechia putting up 46 points in 51 games. So I'm not saying that means he's necessarily still in NHL shape like the way he was before, but a reason to be a little bit more confident in him than someone like Taves. Maybe we were too confident in someone who hadn't played. Sagan's also someone who missed a lot of time and came back and wasn't the same. So I guess we sort of have to make a difference between coming back from injury versus coming back from like playing in a different league. But okay, so now we've both given an honorable mention, which means we're back to you, Ben, for the official. Because this is list. I don't even know why we need honorable mentions because this list isn't going anywhere. Like it's not like I mean, right. Any player we talk about is just a player we talked about on the show. But the official number one from Ben, even though it could be in no particular order, who's someone that you think is going to be a lot different from last year this year? Oh, by the way, can I just correct one thing really quickly? I'm seeing in the chat here that people are making fun of me because I made a mistake, or maybe they're not making fun. They're just trying to be nice and help me. But I said Slack and not Discord. Yeah, we're on Discord for the patrons. We're not on Slack. It's not work. You don't become a patron and then we like make meeting requests and stuff.
I do.
So, okay, yeah. If you hang out with Ben in Discord, then it's like work. But yeah, so we have a Discord, not a Slack. But okay, Ben, number one, who is it?
My number one is the number one player on the Cupful mock drafts so far this season. I'm picking Connor McDavid, which I feel like is also a name that I am feeling a little uneasy about bringing up on this show because he was the Art Ross winner last year. 44 goals, 123 points in 2022, 44 of those points on the power play. If you listened again to the beat writer interview that I did with Alan Mitchell, Low Tide of The Athletic, mentioned that he wouldn't be surprised if Woodcroft split the power play time more evenly next season, which would be negative for McDavid's point totals for sure. But I actually think McDavid has a chance to approach that 150 point pace that we saw him hit in the COVID shortened season 2021. Basically, if you look at these underlyings, McDavid shot at his lowest shooting percentage in 6 seasons, lowest on ice shooting percentage of his career last year. Most of the game is played at even strength. So I see not just the power play points going down being offset by variance and shooting percentages going up. But I like McDavid as somebody who can put up, like 140 points, 150 points. And that, for the sake of, even though he's still going to be, I guess, going from like in this hypothetical, going from number 2 in average couple points to number 1, like the point pace itself is still a pretty significant swing that I'm projecting here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good pick. Also, you just take a look at the splits. He ended last season with 33 points in 19 games. That's around the time that Evander Kane came into the picture. I'm not saying it's like he needs Evander Kane to be successful, but obviously that helps, and that's someone that now he's going to be able to play with this season. So maybe he keeps that up. And yeah, that pace for those last 14 games is around 142. You said 150, but definitely higher than the 125. So yeah, I don't know how actionable this advice is because I'm sure people aren't going to necessarily be like taking him higher than number 1, but good to plant a flag there. Also, another correction. Apparently, I said that Krejci is from Chechnya and not Czechia, which I guess I've been watching a lot of Barry, so I've been paying attention to the Chechens there. But no, he's not friends with NoHo Hank. He was playing with HC Olomouc of Czechia. But okay, so. And then Ben said McDavid, which means it's my turn to pick someone. And I'm going to also look at someone who, I'm looking at the splits, and I'm seeing someone who had a very different second half than his first half. And I'm going to predict that that's going to continue, especially with a new coach. And that is Nikolai Ehlers on the Jets. So overall, Ehlers ended the season with 55 points in 62 games. It's a 73-point pace, down from his 80-point pace the last season. If you look at the start of the year, he did not that well, right? 13 points in his first 21 games. After that, over a point per game for the rest of the season, including 22 points in 20 games to end the year. 11 goals in those last 20 games, like over 40 goal pace. Now, the thing with Ehlers is always, man, if only he could get on the top power play. And I don't want to say predicted because, we predict it every year and it never happens. But we've got a new coach. It's not Paul Maurice. It's Rick Bowness. I don't know. Does Rick Bowness like Ehlers? Like, how could you not like Ehlers? Every time I talk to Murat Atesh about the Jets, he's always telling me that Ehlers is their best player. If I was the coach of a team and I thought someone was the team's best player, I'd put them on the top power play. I don't know, like just a thought. So I think maybe this year there's more of a chance than last year. So I think that would help a lot because if that season that he had an 80-point pace, that was with only 13 power play points. So, if he could get on the top power play and put up similar power play numbers as a Kyle Connor, I don't see why he can't be similar to a Kyle Connor. And Kyle Connor is obviously going in like the first round or two of drafts. Nikolai Ehlers is probably falling to like 4 or 5. Actually, I should bring up Kevin's mock. We've been doing mock drafts with the patrons, and our awesome couple commissioner Kevin has produced a spreadsheet of ADP. So I'll bring that up next time Ben is talking. But yeah, for those reasons and more, give me Nikolai Ehlers to get back to being a point per game player next year, maybe more if he gets on the top power play.
So just to answer for you, because I am a professional, I had Kevin's spreadsheet open. Kyle Connor going at the top of the second round, 15th overall. Nikolai Ehlers going 55th overall. I agree with you completely, Elan. I think that this is a really good one. And not only that, I'm gonna double down on this. I'm gonna say that if you can get Kyle Connor or rather, if you can get Nikolai Ehlers in the 4th or 5th round, you have the potential of winning your league right there, because the upside of a Nikolai Ehlers playing 20 minutes a night, 19 minutes a night under Rick Bowness and on the top power play is that he could be a 120 point player. He put up 4 shots a game last year, career high, was playing 18 minutes a night for the first time in his career, has been playing just 15 or 16 minutes a night the 3 or 4 seasons prior to that under Paul Maurice. So I feel like there's a lot of tread left on a 26-year-old Nikolai Ehlers tires. And I really like this choice, Elan. I think that's a very good place to start.
Wow. You know what? I really loved your choice, Ben. By the way, I'm being corrected. I'm being corrected now. So I said Czechia. That's what it says on his elite prospects page for the country. I guess I'm not keeping fully up on current affairs. Adam is saying I should just say Czech Republic. Mm-hmm. I don't know. What do you say? Where did he play? Where did David Krejci play last year? What
Czech
country?
Republic.
So why does it say Czechia on elite prospects?
What? I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm doing my best, everyone. I apologize. I'm going to look into this.
Czech, I would say.
I thought maybe they changed something about
Isn't it Czechoslovakia? It's not Czech Republic, right? It's Czech.
No, that's old. It used to be called that.
Right. I like this part. We should do more podcasts like this, where we debate what countries in Europe are called now.
I'm probably going to edit this out, but if someone in the chat can either tell me that yes, Adam's right, or no, it's okay to say Czechia. I shared a link in the chat to where I got this from. I didn't make it up. Brian is saying Czechia. Maybe Adam's wrong. Just say Europe. Okay. Wait, now Brian is confusing me a little bit. He's saying Czechia with a hard K sound. Czechia. Czechia.
Oh, I think he's telling you to check your resources.
Okay, we'll see how much of that we keep. Okay,
let's keep none of it and address it at the end, maybe.
Yeah. All right, Ben. I liked your pick. Who are you going with your next pick?
All right, I'm going to take another player who I think, again, is going in the top couple of rounds, but who I think is maybe, I mean, I guess I'm just following the exercise here, right? Brady Tkachuk, 30 goals, 67 points in 2022, picked up to the pace as the season goes on after missing training camp with the holdout. You could already talk me into him improving on last season just based on the fact he had that nice jump in points as a 22-year-old who's now going to get a full training camp in. But I also think with Ottawa making the moves that it made this offseason, and particularly adding Alex DeBrincat, Brady Tkachuk looks to me to be one of the players who will have the biggest uptick in points in 2022. Going to get DeBrincat at even strength and the power play, in addition to playing with Josh Norris, who I think if you listened to, for example, my interview with Ian Mendez, we talked quite a bit about Josh Norris as somebody who is one of the league's best young shooters. One of the best shots on the power play. I think that Alex DeBrincat going to Ottawa could be a bit of a downtick for him, but I don't really see a situation in which this is a bummer for Brady Tkachuk. He still had a bunch of shots, a bunch of hits. He has top 5 upside in all formats. And at this point in the season, or in the offseason, he's mocking right behind Kyle Connor, second pick in the second round at 16th overall. So really like that type of value for Brady Tkachuk. He's a guy who at the back of the first round even, I think has the possibility of being a huge steal.
So, do you mind if I ask you to give a point projection? Because yeah, the exercise is
Yeah, for
people that
sure.
are yeah. So he paced for 70 last year, right? 67
Hmm.
and 79. You're thinking 80?
I'm thinking 85 points.
Oh boy, that
Oh
would be
boy.
huge. Hey, I mean, he ended last year 23 points in his final 20 games, and so if he could just keep that up, then he'll beat that and more. So bold picks. So far, I guess you haven't made such bold picks, but I guess you have, depending how you think of it, right? Like McDavid and Brady Tkachuk, two guys who people are already super high on, and but maybe the bold thing is saying they're even better than you think they are. So
Yes.
cool.
Well, yeah, I'm probably being overly literal with this. I'll go bold next. You're
You muted yourself.
oh,
Sorry. Say I'll go bold next. Can you go from there?
I'll go bold next. Don't worry. I got one in the chamber for you.
Okay. uh, I'm going to go with someone who also I think everyone likes, but maybe people are more down on than they should be. He's not someone who's being drafted, like, in the first couple rounds of these mock drafts. That's Elias Pettersson over on the Canucks, who last year, overall, 70-point pace. Meh. The year before, 66-point pace, although he only played 26 games before that injury that ended the season. The year before that, he was an 80-point guy, and we were expecting him to only go up from there. You look at last year, again, like an Ehlers, just not like nothing was working for Pettersson to start the season. Only 22 points in his first 42 games. And then all of a sudden for the second half, it was like he was a completely different player. He had 46 points in his final 38 games, so well above a point per game. This is a guy who has spent a lot of time with Brock Besser, and we talked a lot about Besser's struggles last year. And in my interview with Harman Dayal, he talked about how Besser was dealing with a lot of off ice issues, and he's expecting Besser to come back better, which I think is going to be better for Pettersson. So actually, you know what? Add Besser. This is like a twofer for my pick here. I'm going to say Pettersson and Besser because Besser actually last season only managed a 53-point pace. So I could see him scoring some more goals, getting back up to like a 65, and then I think Pettersson should be back at point per game or higher. Pettersson, he's got all the skill in the world. He's still only 23 years old. And yeah, what we saw at the end of last season, I think is more representative of what he can do. Hopefully, I don't know, there's been these weird COVID years, right? Like people are not being able to train maybe as much as they can. Pettersson was coming off of that injury going into last season. So I'm just going to kind of be hoping that he keeps up the momentum he had when he was blowing the league apart at the end of last year. Hopefully has a strong off season, not hampered by any like COVID type of issues. And yeah, I'm expecting him to come in strong and beat out his mock draft ADP because if he could be a 90-point guy like we expected him to be like a couple of years ago, that I think will be a lot higher than what people are expecting.
Are you projecting 90 points or are you
I mean, I could say
how bold we going right now?
I could say 80, and I think that meets the exercise because last year he paced for 70. So I'm going to say point per game, but with upside. Like I see upside here. This is like I think a solid floor, and then like upside to go even higher. So I'll put him at where you think Brady Tkachuk will be, and then I think I would expect if we were playing points only, I would take Pettersson over Brady Tkachuk.
You would take Pettersson over Brady Tkachuk. Okay.
I,
Right. Really?
I said if we were playing points only.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, so they finished around the same spot last year. Brady Tkachuk younger and just got Alex DeBrincat on his right side. Definitely has, I would say, I mean, I guess it depends on who goes on the other side for Pettersson, but there's a chance that he has like that Tkachuk gets two better line mates than Pettersson has.
Ben, sometimes you just got to look at the player. I just think Elias Pettersson has the higher offensive pedigree. I think Brady Tkachuk's amazing. In the cupful where we're counting shots and hits, I'm taking Besser over I'm taking Tkachuk over Pettersson all day. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I'm going to say if I have to pick a player for points only, I see Brady Tkachuk as more like a 70, 75 point guy. With some upside, and then like amazing for the peripherals. You're a bit higher on him, and yeah. But anyways, this is nitpicking. I like them both, but specifically here, I'm saying Elias Pettersson I think is going to be a lot better than he was last year, and people should account for that in their drafts.
Okay, Elan, you asked me to go bold.
That's what we're here for.
I'm gonna take another player towards the top of the mock draft board. I'm picking a player who's going at the very end of the first round, but I'm picking him to drop in projected points Roman Yossi going 14th overall in Cupful mock drafts right now. 23 goals and 96 points last year, including 37 on the power play. Basically, everything went right for Roman Yossi last year. He has a career high shooting percentage, career high on ice shooting percentage, career high IPP, nearly a career high secondary assist rate, and almost 40 power play points on a team that basically rebounded from being one of the league's worst for like 5 years in a row. When you look into those numbers on the power play in Nashville, they finished fourth in power play goals in 2022 behind Colorado, St. Louis, and Florida, but were way lower in expected goals for. They were just below middle of the pack. So I think they were 17th out of 32 teams. I could see this team. I definitely expect this team to not repeat what they did on the man advantage last season. And I think that really hurts Roman Yossi. I still think he'll be very good next year, but I do refuse to bet on a defenseman who topped a point per game for the first time at the age of 32, going for another 90-point season. And so I see him dropping from a 98-point pace to a 78-point pace in 2023, a 20-point drop for Roman Yossi. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm with you. And that's still amazing, right? Like, don't forget, two seasons ago, in that COVID shortened season, he only had 33 points in 48 games, so 56-point pace. That's the same pace he had in 2018-19. He sort of has been going down, up. So now if the pattern holds, but falling to 77 would actually be the up from 3 seasons ago. So I think that's reasonable to not expect Yossi to be like as amazing, because like you said, it's like the best he's ever done. It was like later in his career. So I think, and then, there's some of the percentages were a bit high. So I'm with you. Still like potentially one of the top defensemen you could draft, once you're past the Cale Makar level. But I would not be banking on him that high. And in general, my strategy for drafts is let other people swing on the defensemen, like the first 5 defensemen. I'm just going to grab those skaters that I think are more sure things, because defensemen, it always happens. I remember last year with Chychrun and like Jeff Petrie and some of these guys who we just thought were going to be like so amazing because they were just like amazing the year before and they totally fell off. Like, it could happen. I'm not saying that's going to happen to Yossi, but it's going to happen to someone. There's going to be a defenseman that is drafted in like the top 5 that's going to disappoint us. Who knows who it'll be? Maybe it'll be John Karlsson for all we know. So I agree with you that I wouldn't be drafting Yossi anywhere near 100-point player. That's too rich for me. Okay, but since you did a decrease, I've got a decrease for you for my next guy. And I'm going to leave people in suspense because we're going to get to that in just a sec. You're listening to Keeping Karlsson. Twist! All right, we are back to Ben Burnett and myself, Elan Dubrovsky, going back and forth, playing dueling different point paces on Keeping Karlsson here, where we're trying to predict players who we think are going to have different point paces than they did the year before. I said that I'm going to be going next with a player who I think is going to go down, just like Ben did with Roman Yossi. Give me a guy who Ben just talked about on his recent beat writer interview with Jesse Marshall. I'm going to say Brian Rust. I think Brian Rust is potentially slated for a downtick. Last year, career year, well, actually not a career year. He had a 79-point pace, which is a little bit lower than back in 2019-20. In 55 games, he had 56 points in 55 games, so over a point per game. Last year, though, 58 points in 60 games. But the reason why I'm not as high on him, first of all, in your interview that you did with Jesse, Ben, Jesse talked about how maybe Ricard Raquel is a better fit on the top line with Crosby and Gensel. And while obviously playing with Malkin is a decent enough consolation prize, like Malkin's not even going to play all the games, and it's just not as good as playing with Crosby and Gensel. So I'm not saying that's for sure going to happen, but that has me a little bit concerned, and that would lead me to not want to use a high pick on Rust when I'm not sure if he can hold that amazing deployment. Also, when you look just at last year, he's the opposite of the first couple guys I brought off. He cooled off. Like, he, at the end of the season, only 10 points in the last 19 games. For people who were banking on him for their fantasy playoffs, he let them down. I believe Lewis, your co-host, was really bummed out about what was happening with Brian Rust right around the Cupful playoffs. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, I just think point per game, a little too rich for me. I'll project Rust as like a 60-ish point guy, maybe 65, which probably people will say I'm like too low on him, but I don't know. I feel pretty confident about it. Like I just, and I was wrong. I probably thought the same last year, but now I think there's like more competition for that top line. I guess if you see, I could reassess, right? Once we see lines in camp, and if Raquel is like stapled to Malkin, it doesn't look like anything's going to change. Then that's a reason to be higher on Rust. But yeah, he's my next pick as someone I think is going to go down from 79 to like a 65 ish.
Do you recall who Brian Rust played with when he had his career best 83 point pace season?
Was that like Malkin? Was that when
It
Crosby
was
missed some
with
time?
Evgeny Malkin. Oh yeah, that's when that was the Brian Rust breakout was
But
was on Evgeny Malkin's wing.
yeah, but I believe Gensel was on the other wing. I believe Crosby was injured, and it was Malkin, Rust, and Gensel for a lot of that breakout.
I don't recall that, but that would
Okay, edit points. Let me bring this up here. I
Jake
know how to find it.
Gensel, Evgeny Malkin, Brian Rust.
There you go.
Wow.
Can you
And
go
then
back from where I said it was with Gensel, and instead of saying I don't recall that, like go from there as if you did recall that?
that's
And
a
so,
good point.
yeah, go ahead.
That's a fair point, Elan. I mean, lots of time spent with Dominic Cahoon as well that season, but yeah, I will say I don't think Brian Rust falls off that drastically. I feel like being on the top power play is more important than whether he plays with Crosby or Malkin. I think that he'll get lots of opportunity to put up points next to Malkin, and honestly, not a really bad spot for him considering he's a guy who's going to shoot 3 shots a game, and Gensel commands a lot of shots. Crosby is obviously shooting. Yeah, so I don't know. I could see Brian Rust being just fine next year, putting up 70 to 75, but I also can understand the fear in drafting him to put up around a point per game, given that there's a little bit of uncertainty where he plays next year.
And I guess maybe I'm like too much of a Ricard Raquel fan. Like I've always kind of been into Ricard Raquel, so I'm even thinking like maybe Raquel bumps him from the power play, and maybe that's not fair. But like 3 years ago, we would have been like Raquel, you draft in like the 6th round of your fantasy league, and Brian Rust is not even worth drafting. He's like someone we talk about keeping Karlsson when he happens to get on the Crosby line, and obviously a lot has changed over the last 3 years. But yeah, so you know what? Let me just patch in with this pick. I'm just going to throw in Raquel also as someone that I think is going to do better because he wasn't even a 50-point guy last year. And if what Jesse Marshall said comes true, and if he does get to play with Crosby and Gensel, I think Raquel can do better than 48-point pace. I always thought he was like super talented and really good. And I remember I watched a couple Ducks games back when he was there last year and the year before, and it just seemed like he was like driving everything. And then he would pass it to one of his line mates, and that person would flub it up because like he wasn't playing with anyone who could do anything. Getzlaff was always injured. He used to be good when he played with Getzlaff when Getzlaff was good. So I don't know. So I'm also going to throw Raquel there as a bonus, as someone that I think is going to do better than he did last year. Rust down a little bit, Raquel up a little bit. But okay, Ben, back to you. Who you got for us? Is it going to be another swing, or is it going to be an obvious like like a
Wow.
Barbashev isn't going to get 60-point pace again?
Wow. No, I didn't have Barbashev on my list. I'm gonna go. You know what? We've been talking about a lot of players at the top of the draft board, guys who are going in the top, at least the top like 100 or so. I'm gonna go a little bit lower. I'm gonna go with a guy who, again, we're dipping back into the beat writer sauce here, but I want to talk about Anthony Mantha, who scored 9 goals and 23 points in 35 games, put up a 51-point pace. I don't think that Mantha is going to turn into a 80-point player this year, or become a guy who you need to go out and like you have to draft him in the top 10, like the top 10 rounds or whatever. But basically he's going to cost you nothing in drafts this year. He's going to be available at the very end, kind of like the David Krejci type situation where you can get him for absolutely no draft capital. And if you listen to my interview with Samantha Pell earlier this year, we were talking about how desperate the Caps are going to be without Backstrom and Wilson for a chunk of time. TJ Oshie has struggled to stay healthy. He's turning 36. Mantha is likely going to need to be relied on. And whether that means, an uptick in shots and power play opportunities, I just think he's going to have a chance to be the player that he was at times in Detroit next season. And so while I could see this turning into, okay, he gets up to the 55 to 60 point pace, it's nothing wild. I think he has a chance to put up a 68 to 70 point pace if things break right for him playing with, he might get that shot playing in Tom Wilson's spot on the top line, playing with playing with I can't remember
Kuznetsov.
who's that guy on the top line? Kuzvechkin. Yeah, Ovi and Kuznetsov. I mean, it's just a very plush role.
Yeah, okay. I can't disagree with that. It's kind of like my Raquel pick, like someone who sort of has fallen off, someone we used to really like, has kind of disappeared in fantasy, but the opportunity, like you say, is going to be there at least to start the year. So I like that pick as well. Sometimes when you're drafting a player, also, you don't need to think about their season long point pace, right? You can draft. How about this? Draft Mantha. If he starts hot playing on the top line, then all of a sudden news is starting to come out. Well, maybe then it's too late. But like, once you start getting worried that Tom Wilson's coming back, trade him. Trade him after he gets a hat trick in some game and get an awesome return. Then you got really good value off of that pick. Or whatever, you hold on to him, you get all the value at the start of the year. Then when he falls off, if/when, then you drop him. So what? You still enjoyed him while the times were good. So I definitely think Mantha's someone you don't want to let go undrafted. I think we're going to see that in training camp, right? We're going to see the lines. Shams is going to be tweeting out at Game Day Lines. And it's going to be posted at GameDayLines.com. And it'll be obvious that you're going to want Mantha because he's probably going to be playing, like you said, in a plush role. Okay, so you went to the bottom of the draft. Should I do the same? I don't know. Okay, I have so many picks, people I want to talk about. Let me go do a defenseman. Okay, I'm going to do a defenseman I think is going to be better than last year. So this might be an obvious one, but I'm pretty excited about Miro Heiskanen over in Dallas. Klingberg is gone. Ben's making faces. I don't know if that's like what a beautiful, amazing pick. Oh yeah, he's giving me the thumbs. Okay, good. Heiskanen like coming off a pretty boring season, just 36 points in 70 games. That's a 42-point pace. It's pretty much the same pace he's had for the previous 2 seasons, and that that was actually a career year. Like he had that amazing playoffs that made us super excited about him when Dallas went to the finals, and he's sort of been disappointing points wise. When I talked to Saad Youssef in the Beat Writer series. We're going to talk about that just a month ago or so. And like he said, Heiskanen's like the best defenseman on the team. Like there's no doubt he plays all the big minutes, and he really expects that Heiskanen is going to have a big uptick this year because he's going to take over on the top power play. There's no question. So, last year he had 36 points in 70 games, only 11 power play points. Right away, even if you just add 10 more power play points, now all of a sudden we're talking about a 50-point player, which is for a defenseman, that's a really big increase. And I also think he has more to give potentially, like offensively, even at even strength. Like I just think this is the kind of guy that we're going to in a couple of years be like, remember back when we used to think that Miro Heiskanen was like just a 40-point guy, kind of like a Charlie McAvoy. Remember how he was sort of like for a long time, just sort of like kind of meh, and then like the last couple of seasons he's really established himself. Well, now he's injured, unfortunately, but established himself as someone that's like a really high-end defenseman to draft. I think we're right there on the cusp with Heiskanen. This is going to be the lowest you'll be able to get him in drafts for like 5-6 years. So now's your chance. Go get him. I'm saying at least 50. I wouldn't be surprised with 55. I wouldn't be surprised with 60. I think the upside is there for as high as, I guess, Robertson and Hintz and Pavelski and all those other guys can take him. He's going to be dishing to them, and he's really talented, and it's just a matter of them finishing, though. I think he's good. Finishing. Matter of them finishing, and they've shown they can. And now that Klingberg's gone, it's Heiskanen's turn. So that's my pick.
Yeah, I love it. Heiskanen is a player that has been very frustrating as a fantasy manager because if you watch him play hockey, you're just like, oh my, it's kind of like the Nick Ehlers thing that we talked about earlier, where it's like all of the talent in the world, but not really getting the opportunity or the time to put it all to use. I guess the one question with Heiskanen is what happens when he gets unleashed on the top power play, and does he have the juice to become a John Karlsson type of, I'm talking purely point production. They don't look like the same player or anything. Or does he become a Thomas Chabot where it's like, yeah, he's good or whatever, but like that's really not his forte, is putting up like dozens and dozens of points on the power play. So I think that there's a chance that, especially if you're playing in a league with casuals, make sure you get Miro Heiskanen, because I feel like his draft ADP is going to be very, very low. If you're playing with Sharks or you're playing in the Cupful, I would suspect he's probably going at a point where you're going to have to pay for some of the upside. And at that point, I guess the question is just how much of his raw skill and his talent will turn into point production. And I would be really curious to hear from a Cam Robertson or somebody. I don't know or Cam Robinson. I don't know if you'll have him on the show ahead of the season, Elan, but that's a player I would love to hear from a scout or somebody who watches closely, how he expects his point pace will will translate. Because I mean, we've seen him get 55 to 60% of the power play time for stretches in Dallas, and it really hasn't turned into much. So yeah, I mean, like 2 years ago, he played 60% of the power play minutes, and he put up 11 power play points over 55 games. So I can see it either way, and it's really interesting to me. The reason why I reacted so strongly and so highly when you started talking about Heiskanen is because I want that breakout so bad. He's such a fun player to watch at even strength. If he could be a superstar point producer as well, I just think that would be really fun for the league.
Yeah. Okay. I have a feeling if you talk to these scouts, they all are like drooling over Heiskanen all the time and saying how he's such a like beautiful player and like he has it in him. So
why no power play points so far? What's going on?
I don't know. I guess the COVID season, throw it out, right? 2020, 21, when he had a lot of
throw it
power
all
play time.
out. Just throw it all out. It doesn't fit my narrative. Throw it out.
Didn't Dallas like not play for like the first few weeks of the season, and they probably had like a compressed schedule? Oh, yeah. Like, forget that season. That was a crazy season. Okay, I don't want to talk about that.
That is true. I do recall that happening, but I also see the narrative shifting.
Of course.
Yeah.
All right.
I like that one though. I do think that's a good call. Definitely has a chance to be a big mover. I'm going to bring up another big name, and I feel like this is one that I felt a little guilty writing down, but I just feel like he has to be talked about on this show. Johnny Gaudreau is now putting up 115 points in 2023. He's not going to score 40 goals. The numbers were inflated in Calgary, but he was also playing on a team that could support that level of production on a line with Matthew Tkachuk and Elias Lindholm. It made complete sense that Gaudreau would have the best season that he's ever had, given those line mates at the age of 29. And I still think he can be a star, but does he hit 100 points in Columbus? Does he hit 90 points? Like, I'm probably projecting him for 85, which would be a drop of 30 points in pace, because I really just don't like that fit playing without a number one center, lacking a talented player with a complete game, like Tkachuk on the other wing. Like, I know that people are hype about the Patrick Laine opportunity, but like, the reason why Matthew Tkachuk is so good is because he does a lot of things that Patrick Laine cannot do. And Johnny Gaudreau going to Columbus it's not going to be as easy for him to put up points on a team like I know this is very obvious, but I just feel like he has to be mentioned on this show.
How dare you not call Boone Jenner a legit top line center? No.
I actually, let me say one more thing here, which is that at one point I was listening to you guys talk about the free agency, the show after free agency, and Brian was like, "What if he doesn't even play on the top line?" And it's like, I just had to say at that moment, Johnny Gaudreau's line will be the top line. There's no question about that at the very least. But yeah, how good can he be? I see when I look at the Cupful mock drafts, he's going at 32. I would probably put him a little bit lower myself. I would probably be drafting Johnny Gaudreau another round or two below, maybe around around an Elias Pettersson.
Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Well, yeah, if you look at these mock draft results that, again, Kevin Hebert put together for us, after Gaudreau, we're getting Jason Robertson, Zibanejad, Evander Kane, Sebastian Aho. Yeah, I think, Landeskog. So, yeah, those might be forwards that I'd be a little bit more confident in. You know me, I'm also always a little bit wary about people going to new teams. We were having a chat on the Discord today. Someone was talking about whether to keep Ehlers or DeBrincat. There were some other players involved. Anyways, I was just saying I'm a little nervous about DeBrincat. Like, not for any good reason, It's like I think DeBrincat will probably be fine, but when I'm drafting for the upside, but also I want to, like, for a super high pick, not take as many risks and want more of a sure thing. And I just think, like, before DeBrincat was like playing with Patrick Kane, was doing really well. Like, who knows if he'll click with his new line mates. And anyways, we're talking about Gaudreau. So same situation. Sometimes it takes players a little bit of time to figure things out in a new situation. We can't be guaranteed. We don't know the role. Like with a Gaudreau, for sure, he'll be top power play. With DeBrincat, Ottawa has a lot of really good players, right? So someone good is going to get bumped from that top power play. I'm not saying it'll necessarily be DeBrincat, but I also don't think it's going to be Tkachuk. I don't know if it's going to be Giroux. Is it going to be Batherson? Like, who knows? And there's no point speculating.
Can I jump in and go again? I have one more who you've just mentioned, and it feels like a perfect segue here. Drake Batherson, not doing it again. 17 goals, 44 points in 46 games. I really thought when I was making this list, I was like, this is going to be a hot take. because his numbers before he came back from the injury, he was pacing for 90 points. Then he comes back from the most frustrating fantasy injury I've ever seen in my life. Elan, you'll recall I had just traded Steven Stamkos for Drake Batherson because of the games played disparity to finish out the year. It would not have worked out for me anyway because Steven Stamkos went super fuego. And anyway, I was trying to climb my way back in. I had to take some shots. Drake Batherson, though, comes back, puts up 10 points in 15 games, and finishes the season pacing for 78 points on the year. I think it's going to be a lot tougher for him to get looks on this team. I mentioned the Kachuk, Norris, DeBrincat top line that I expect to see. The issue is that now they also brought in, it's nice to see Claude Giroux come in and be able to be playing with Stützle and Batherson. That's what I expect the second unit to be. And I think that Timmy Stützle could have a really nice jump this season for sure, but it might be more in the range for Batherson rather. I think this may be tough for him to approach a point per game like he did last year without top power play minutes. And I could see him in the 60 to 70 point range rather than the, like 65 rather than 78.
Yeah, Brian and I talked a bit about Batherson on the last show. There's also all this stuff going on like off the ice, which we don't need to dive into.
Yeah.
And we don't even know for sure. Like, again, it's all speculation. Like, nothing's been said. But anyways.
What is it with Canadian dudes named Drake?
Wait, what? I'm going to edit this out. Did the Drake guy, the famous Drake, do something?
He's is known for texting, for grooming teens.
Oh, okay. Well...
Or it has been accused of grooming teens, I should say.
Okay. I did not know. I don't pay. I'm not following this stuff. Maybe we should do a separate podcast.
Yeah, I'll tell you about Drake on it.
Okay.
It just
Yeah. So yeah, and I'll just go back from I hear you. Like Brian and I talked also about Batherson on the last show. It's like, we don't know what the deployment's going to be in Ottawa, but probably someone's going to be left out in the cold, or maybe everyone will be. Maybe they'll have two even power plays, and then just kind of like everyone hurts in terms of their power play production, which might be great for the team and not good for fantasy. But who knows, right? So we'll find out what DJ Smith has in mind for us. Okay, next pick. So first of all, I made a mistake and asked in the chat if other people have picks, and now people put in some really awesome picks, but I also still have mine that I want to do, so I don't know why I did that. So how about I'll do one more of mine, and then afterwards, when it's my turn in the future, I'll go with chat room picks, because we have some really good ones. But I'm going to end with... I just want to do... Okay, I'm going to do two. I'm going to throw two at you right now, Ben, and then you could choose which one you want to talk about. First of all, a down... Maybe this is like an obvious one, or maybe not. I don't know. I'm going to say Mason Marchment is not a 70-point player. That's kind of like the Barbashev one, where maybe people are thinking like that's not even such a hot take. But yeah, he had 47 points in 54 games last year. And yeah, it wasn't even on like a top line in Florida. Like, it was so impressive what he did. But he had really high shooting percentage, like 15%. He only was taking like 2 shots per game, and he scored 18 goals in 54 games. Now he goes to Dallas. He's not going to be on the top line. Like, I don't know. We'll see who he plays with. Maybe with Sagan. So anyways, maybe that's a boring take. So that's a name I'm going to throw out there. Someone I think is going to go down. And then for someone that I think is going to go up, just a name I think people should remember. I don't think he's going to go up to like his heights of his career, but Sean Couturier is an NHL player in the league, even though it didn't appear like it last year. He played 29 games, only 17 points, so 48-point pace for Couturier, and then he missed the rest of the year with injury. So assuming he comes back healthy, and I know Philly isn't the same, they don't have Giroux on that power play to help Couturier to all those power play points, but I still expect him to be more than a 48-point player. Maybe we're looking at like 65, 70, as opposed to like 75 that he was before in the previous few years. But so he's someone that I think like don't let him go undrafted for sure. Probably you're going to be happy if you get him in the middle of your draft.
Yeah, that makes sense. I honestly don't really have much to add about either of these guys. I think the case against Marchment is like really obvious. Dallas is one of those teams that very clearly has a top unit, and they are perfectly suited to playing with each other. So like, even if Joe Pavelski isn't a top 30 winger in the league at this point, like, you would have to be somebody who you would have to suit a very specific profile to make that line better by taking him off. Mason Marchment strikes me as somebody who, anyway, I'm with you there. Same as Sean Couturier. I'm actually going to add a player from Philadelphia that I see going down. I don't think it's a strong take or anything, but Tony DeAngelo put up 51 points in 64 games last year, 20 on the power play. Is anyone in Philadelphia going to get 20 power play points next year? I I don't see this power play being particularly strong, and I don't see DeAngelo putting up many points at even strength behind this team either. I have a feeling Philadelphia is going to be trash, and DeAngelo is going to be stuck in that dumpster.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as good a situation as Carolina for sure, but I still think he should be good for like 50, 55, just because he's still going to be the top power play defenseman. He clearly is talented. And, I know that they're not as good, but they still have like, you look at the top power play, Konechny, like, or I don't know. I don't know who's injured. This team has everyone injured all the time.
Konechny, like, wait, is that your bullet?
No, I did. I was like gonna do a list, and then I realized Konechny at one point was injured. But like, okay, Atkinson, Couturier, Konechny, throw in a dark horse. Like, well, there's JVR, or like an Owen Tippett.
Does this sound like a top 10 power play to you?
I'm not saying it's a top 10. I'm just saying that it's not going to get like 0 points. Like, I think it's like I don't know. Obviously, with coaching and we'll see how they do. I just don't think DeAngelo's going to like totally fall off, and like you should avoid him. I do agree with you that maybe he's not like a 60, 65 point guy like he was last year, but I still draft him pretty comfortably as a 50 to 55 point guy. So I guess it depends how far you're expecting him to fall. Like,
yeah, I'd put him at a 51 point pace, and that's a 14 point drop, which is pretty substantial at this. Like we talked about, obviously players with bigger gaps at the top of the draft where there's a lot less room to maneuver, but like Tony DeAngelo going from think back to the teams where he has been successful too. On the top unit with the New York Rangers, the first year that Artemi Panarin was there, incredible power play. And then again this year on a very, very strong power play in Carolina, like filled with players that we are picking in the top 50. There's nobody.
I mean, you're like, preaching to the choir, Ben. Yeah. I know. I mean, we're in agreement. He was a good pick for the exercise, but I guess you could say as a counterpoint, those are the 2 years that he was on a top power play and things went well. So maybe he's actually just like really good in his own right. Who knows? We'll find out this year. Now we'll see Tony DeAngelo on a top power play with not as good players, and it'll be interesting to see. So it's a little bit hard to predict, but definitely I don't think it's as good a situation. So I am with you. John's pointing out in the chat here, Couturier also had a really low shooting percentage last year, which led to his low, point total. And he was playing injured. I think when I talked to, what's his name? Talked to Charlie O'Connor in the beat writer interview, he was saying like basically you could throw it out, like he wasn't himself before he ended up getting shut down for the season. Okay, so my turn again. All right, let's do some of these chat room ones. So Nazem Kadri is one that Kevin threw out there. I mean, that's pretty easy if he goes to the Islanders. I'll be like last year, 87 points in 71 games, 100-point pace. When's the last time an Islanders player had 100-point pace? I guess Barzal had that good year, but that was like 85 or something. Probably Tavares. Did he do it at one point? Maybe. But that was a different Islanders team, not the super defensive team. So it's not official that Kadri's going to the Islanders. But probably even if he doesn't, he's probably not a 100-point player. He's never been more than like a 61-point player. Or no, he did have a 75-point pace back in 2012-13 for what it's worth in 48 games. So yeah, I think that's a good pick. I'll throw a couple at you, Ben, just from the chat here. So Lafreniere. Well, Ben, you're the big Rangers fan. From the interview that you did with Arthur Staple, it didn't seem like he was that confident in Lafreniere even potentially getting into the top 6. He had like Kakko there and maybe like a Kravtsov, and maybe Lafreniere still on the third line. Do I have that right, or maybe it's just like speculation? Obviously, we don't know. But obviously, like he could. It's not hard for him to go up. He only had 31 points last year in 79 games, so even just being a half point per game guy would be a huge jump. And we did see him show the ability to be like a half point per game guy in the playoffs, and he's obviously a first overall pick, so he has the pedigree. So I think it's a good pick, but I wouldn't be like last year. I think I was like really excited about him. I was thinking like, oh, this is the time he's gonna start the season playing with Zibanejad. I think it was like Kakko was with Panarin and Lafreniere was with Zibanejad, and I just thought this was gonna be amazing, and it really didn't work out. So now once bitten, twice shy, but he's only 20 years old. So you're the Rangers fan here. So what do you think? How high is Lafreniere gonna get to next year?
Yeah, so I think he's a good answer for this just because the point pace is probably going to be like, I would say jumping from 32, probably like at least, maybe not at least, I wouldn't be shocked at all if he put up a 50 to 55 point pace next year. Even looking beyond the playoffs, which I think are people tend to get really excited about the playoffs, and I don't think that that makes a lot of sense. But if you extend it into, just because of the sample size issue, but if you extend it into the regular season, in his last 20 games, Lafreniere was on a 47 point pace, and that's with playing 14 minutes a night. So I think that the biggest issue with Lafreniere is, like you said, Elan, going to be opportunity. I just don't see him getting a ton of minutes on this team. I do think that there's opportunity for him to make a mark. Like if he breaks camp with the top line, like I think that he's somebody who should be drafted in most leagues. Like he's one of those guys who, like, it's kind of funny to put him in this category, but like I feel like the hype has died down enough where he would be like, do you remember when Jonathan Marchessault was on the top unit in Tampa, like the first year that he was worth owning or rostering in fantasy? And like if you got him at the last round because you were paying attention in training camp, like you had a great pickup. And I feel like Lafreniere could be one of those types of guys where, like, yeah, I don't think even if he's on the top unit, people probably aren't getting excited because they've seen him get that opportunity before. But yeah, he looked like a much better player in the second half last year. He was putting up a ton of points. I mean, relatively very high points in a low period of time, or low ice time, excuse me. So I really like Lafreniere as a Rangers fan. I don't think I'll be drafting him in too many leagues unless he's playing on the top unit, in which case I think he's a very, very good last round home run swing.
Yeah, that 2022. Sorry. Yeah, I'm with you. That 2020 draft looking pretty interesting right now. Like, I guess it's still too early to do a redraft, but like Lafreniere and Byfield, we still haven't seen much from. Both like super young, so that's nothing against either of them. Stützle went third, Lucas Raymond went fourth, so it'll be fun to see. And then there's some other big names if you keep going down the list. So yeah, it'll be fun in a few years to see what actually was the right choice there at first overall and second for that matter. Okay, so Ben, do you want me to throw you some more from the chat, or do you have any in your list that you want to get out there?
It's a good question. I do have one player I want to talk about at least.
Please.
This is a player, Elan, that I didn't think you would be into this player before this episode, but you confirmed it with something you said earlier, which is that you do not like being risky in the top few rounds. I'm going to name the riskiest player in the top few rounds, and that is very clearly Jack Eichel. 25 points in 34 games last year. Again, if you listen to the beat writer interview with Jesse Granger, he had nothing but good things to say about Jack Eichel's very frustrating first season in Vegas. Frustrating from the outside, frustrating from a box like accounting numbers perspective. But he suffers the broken thumb in March. That clearly takes a toll on Eichel's play, but otherwise he looked like a really strong player. Also, every player in Vegas was extremely hurt. I am worried about Mark Stone's health. That came up in my interview with Jesse Granger as well. But in 2023, I do think Vegas is probably going to have to score a lot of goals with Robin Lehner out of the picture. And in Cupful mocks, Eichel was going 28th. I suspect that's a little higher than he'll go in most leagues. I could see him going around where he went last year in like the 40. I guess he was going like 55, 60 last year, as I recall. I could see him going like 30 to 40 overall in a lot of leagues. And I will take him. I'll take him at the back half of the second round for sure. I might go as high as to say I'd take him around 25. This may bust, but the upside is you get a top 5 player in the third or fourth round. And that's very, very valuable.
Yeah, you said before you could win your league with an Ehlers pick. That's kind of late. And yeah, I think same for Eichel. Like, he has all the upside in the world. He used to be a top 10 guy in fantasy. And I think he can do it also. Like, he was also, still recovering when he came back. He had, like you said, he had that injury with his hand, was it? Yeah, broken finger or something. So he was having a tough time, and he still managed a 60-point pace. But yeah, I think next year, and the big thing also that Jesse Granger said, which I think you just touched on, is a lot of it depends on Mark Stone. The word is he's had surgery and Mark Stone is healthy. Like, who knows if he'll be able to come back and be the Mark Stone of old, but if he can, that's huge. And that would also be a reason, by the way, to add Mark Stone to the list, because he only had a 66-point pace last year. And if he's healthy and he's playing on the top line with Jack Eichel, that's huge. No disrespect to Chandler Stevenson, but I like playing with Eichel. And then Who's the next one though? Who else is there? Marchessault, is he going to play on that line? Or I guess Jesse Granger was talking about whether they're going to go with that like classic line of Marchessault, Smith, and William Karlsson, or
I
like
think he
split
said they
them
would
up.
split it up.
Yeah.
He's expecting to see some experimentation on that top line. So yeah, I think that we'll see some new looks, which is really exciting. I actually really, I mean, I think Vegas in general is a Mason mentioned in the chat that rather Mark Stone is another great pick. I agree with him. And I think that Chandler Stevenson is a guy who is going to get faded in a lot of drafts because he petered off towards the second half of last year. But what he did in the first half, I'm not forgetting. Like, he looked really impressive playing on a team that was otherwise broken. He carried them points wise for quite a while. I really like, yeah, I think a lot of players in Vegas stand to bounce back this year.
By the way, speaking of Vegas, I don't know if that it's relevant for the topic of this episode, but how about that news that Robin Lehner is going to be out for the season? Wow. So, from that interview with Jesse Granger, it kind of seemed like we should be higher on Vegas than maybe people are. Now that's going to be a hit. So I guess Laurent Brossoit is apparently still recovering, but word is he's not, the coach was saying that he's probably not going to be ready to start the year. Maybe he'll need a couple weeks still. So it looks like maybe Logan Thompson is our starting goalie to start the year. So again, like I was saying before about sometimes just taking a player like a Mantha at the start, maybe not necessarily someone you're going to depend on all season, but grab Logan Thompson in your drafts. Like, he's going to be a starting goalie. Who's next on the depth chart while Brossoit is injured? I know they have Hutchinson, who is always a good guaranteed loss, someone that you want to stack up against when you're playing daily fantasy if he gets a start. So I could see Logan Thompson getting a lot of games until Brossoit, and even when Brossoit comes back, like, he's not even that great. So yeah, Thompson is someone that if he's falling far enough in my drafts, where it's like a pick that I don't need to hold on all year, but just someone that I want to give me value, like for the first 2-3 weeks, he's someone definitely to look at. Obviously, you have to look at the schedule. But okay, so that's I'm with you. Stone and Eichel. Looks like the patrons, like you said in our mock drafts, I think they have Eichel in a good place. Like, they already have him mock draft at 28, like just after Patrick Kane and Crosby, and just before like Timo Meyer, Jack Hughes, DeBrincat, Gaudreau. So definitely, I'm not saying that Eichel's like maybe better than the spot where the patrons are taking, but I know, Ben, you were saying that you think that the patrons are maybe higher on him than the general population will be. So maybe going into your drafts, you'll be able to get Eichel a little bit later. What else do we have here in the chat? We have Andrew Kopp, Uno Huim. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that nickname correctly, but
who adores my bedroom wall. Says it's the ideal Zoom background.
So yeah, hey, good for you. So Kopp has had an interesting stretch these past couple of years, because he was like kind of a nobody, right, over on Winnipeg, and then all of a sudden he got into the top six and was doing really well. Had that 58-point pace season in the shortened COVID season. Then last year he continued to do well. Then he went to the Rangers, got on a line with Panarin and Ryan Strome, and had an amazing. Oh wait, no, he didn't. He actually didn't have such a great end. Only 6 points in his last 13 games. But I guess maybe I'm thinking of the playoffs. I don't know. Kopp did have a good run anyways on the Rangers. And now he goes to Detroit, where also like David Perron is there. And he's another guy who I wonder if he can keep up what he's been doing. Like, Detroit's just a team where on one hand, like Larkin and Bertuzzi have been able to put up great point paces recently. But I don't know. I still feel like skeptical. Like, I think probably Kopp is not, like, overall he ended with a 60-point pace last year. I'm not drafting him as a 60-point guy. Maybe he's someone that if he's available late, you take him because he's, been able to do this the past couple of years. So maybe he has it in him, but I don't know what the deployment's going to be. Maybe he'll play on a second line with Perron, and who would be the center then?
He would be. He's the center.
Oh.
Yeah.
Who'd be center then? Sorry, let me just bring up the depth charts really quickly, just to remind myself. Probably Wings fans are like, come on, bro. How do you not know?
Yeah, Lewis is somewhere. Lewis has steam coming out of his ears.
With a Pew Suitor, or maybe like Kopp is the center, and you think Perron and Verana could be like a good second line. Yeah, I mean, yeah. So it could be a really good situation for him. I don't know if there's a power play opportunity, but yeah, I don't know. He's just like one of those guys. Maybe it's also like, I have to admit, like with a Brian Rust, maybe I have a bit inside me where I just haven't like gotten caught up yet to the fact that these are like point producers, like big point producers. Obviously, Rust is in a different level than Cop, where maybe I'm like too low on them, and it's like just kind of a gut feeling that I shouldn't be trusting. But yeah, I think Cop is a good pick. I think he's going to go down.
So wait,
I think more like a
Elon,
50 point pace.
are you expecting, so you're thinking that he's being brought up as a guy who's going to go lower than 60?
I assume so. Like I'm picking lower. Yeah, I would say closer
Okay.
to 50 or like 45, 50.
I kind of think that I kind of like Cop to be 55 to 58 points. Like I don't see him being way off. Like I do think that he gets that second line center role. And I think playing between David Perron and Jakub Verana is actually a very solid looking second line. And that's where Andrew Copp has thrived. That's where he put up a 60-point pace in Winnipeg and a 60-point pace this past season. If there's a player on that top or on the wings who I think is going to see a big drop off, and I don't think this is a hot take, I think it's David Perron.
Oh,
Did
okay.
you want me to keep going? Sorry.
Oh no, I could jump in. Sorry, let me just bring him up
Okay.
so I could reference his shit.
He put up 57
Okay.
points in 67 games last year. That's a 70-point pace playing, top line on the St. Louis power play that I mentioned was top 3 in the league last year. Only got 17 minutes a night too, which is pretty efficient in terms of points, but he had a ton of power play points. Almost half of his points. Actually, yes, almost half of his points were power play points. I just don't see him getting enough of an opportunity to put up points in Detroit.
Yeah, I guess he's set the bar pretty high for himself with his last few years in St. Louis. So again, like yeah, just with Detroit, I'm just gonna like not be super stoked on these guys. And Perron might be another guy that I'll regret not having taken, but there's other good players you could take in the draft around there. So yeah, I think of him as like a 60, 65 point guy. So yeah, a little bit lower than the 70 he put up last year. Who's next? Okay. By the way, Ben, I guess you wanted to not do. You specifically messaged me and was like, "Is this going to be like a typical Keeping Karlsson episode, or more closer to a short shifts
Yeah,
episode?"
short shifts episodes. Those are the thing is, Elon. Every time I go on a full length episode with you, I leave with like a new ache in my back. Um, aged 70 years. No, I'm just kidding. The one thing I did want to say though is we have not talked about any goaltenders, and I feel like
Okay.
we should at least give a goalie take. Just
Sure.
before we
I
hop
did bring
off
up
here.
Logan Thompson on Vegas, but
Yep.
yeah, let's each give a goalie that. So this is basically obviously they don't have point paces. A goalie that we think will be like wildly different in value from last year to this year. Who do you got?
I think Sergei Bobrovsky is going to be bad next year. It's just been a long career of being pretty mediocre. Or it's been like several years where he fell off. I just don't buy into the sudden resurgence, and he really did fall off towards the end of last season. So if I had to guess, and I mean, in fairness, I'm looking at the patron rankings and the ADP. It's not like he's going wildly high anyway. He's going 123. But yeah, I'm not buying.
Wait, did my internet go out or what happened here?
It sounded like you were muted or something.
Sorry, you cut out for me. So which it's my side of
Uh,
the recording that we're using. So you just go from you were saying, yeah, you're like, so I'm not buying.
so I'm not buying Sergei Bobrovsky this season.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's reasonable. Obviously, Spencer Knight is a really high-end prospect that we're expecting to slowly start taking more and more games, kind of like Saros did to Pekka Rinne, sort of at the end of their time in Nashville. So maybe it'll be a similar situation. Okay, pick a goalie. I got two in mind. Okay, here's an obvious one. So this is too boring. So this won't be my official pick because I think the patrons are already with me. Like I think everyone agrees. Jake Ottinger. It's Jake Ottinger time. Like Dallas has no one else to be the backup. Well, they have Wedgwood, and they have Wedgwood, and like yeah, no shade to Wedgwood, but clearly he's being brought in to be the backup. I know Ottinger isn't signed right now, but like what we saw in the playoffs reminds me a lot of what we saw from Demko a couple years ago in the playoffs, just like really like helping Vancouver win some games that they shouldn't have. And like I mean, I know the people could say like, oh, small sample size up, but I think Ottinger's ready. I think we thought he was really good last year, and just he had to start the year in the minors because Dallas had all these other goalies. But forget about Hudobin, like Holtby's gone, like the path has been cleared, and I think that's too obvious. So I'll even move on to maybe a hotter
Wait,
take.
I want to talk about Jake Ottinger for a second
All right,
because
sure.
I feel like I feel like the playoff hype is getting way overdone here. Like I hear you, like, yes, just like another freakishly good single series, this goalie was very good in a single series. Uh that's that's fine. And like I think Jake Ottinger will be good, but Jake Ottinger was also good last year. Like he was a 914 save percentage. He got 30 wins in 48 games. Like I
Yeah.
just don't see a huge gap from the goaltender he was last year going. I don't see a big reason to project him to be a top five goalie all of a sudden just because he had a strong playoff run.
Well, I mean, a big part of it is the games played, right? Like I'm expecting more games played as an maybe as it becomes rarer and rarer in the NHL. I think he's going to be a volume starter for this team. Like
But
I
he
think
played
he's
48 last year. How many
yeah
games do you think he's going to play?
55, like 60, like a lot. Like maybe amongst them, like Scott Wedgwood is not a 1B, right? He's a 2. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
So
how I
I
see
mean,
it.
like 55 is an uptick, but it's seven. Like he played almost every game down the stretch last year. So I just think like I just don't see a huge gap in the like. I feel like people are getting overly hype about Jake Ottinger. I think he's going to be good, but I don't think that he is. He deserves to be looked at as like one of the top. I think it's projection and people getting overly excited because of the playoffs.
Maybe. Okay. Well, be prepared to throw some popcorn at your phone when you listen to Schmorgoli's board in a month because I'm pretty high on him and I'm not going to let you kill that. And again, a lot of this is just guessing. So the truth will come out eventually. And then I'll hopefully be able to just play this to you and make you feel bad
Like
about
he's
yourself.
going ahead of Ilya Sorokin in a couple drafts.
I
Ilya
think it's
Sorokin was
of
like
games played. Yeah.
a Vesna. Okay, that's fair. Yeah. All right.
I mean, Varlamov is look. By the way, I think it makes sense for like Vegas to go after a goalie. I know Varlamov is someone that people have talked about as maybe might be available to Vegas to get. So who knows if like the goalie situation will still change now that it's been announced that Leonard is out for the year. So who knows? And if Varlamov does get traded and then Sorokin all of a sudden doesn't have like a 1B, but it's more like a clear number 2 on the Islanders, then yeah, then Sorokin also shoots up my list. I think he's amazing. I think if Sorokin was a volume starter, if he played as much as Vasilevsky or Shestyorkin, like I think Sorokin would be like right amongst them in the Vesna conversation for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
But anyways, Andre's not even my pick. I said that was too easy, and you already are. So that means you're really going to hate this one.
I had something to say about Ottinger.
No, I liked
saying
it.
that there's nothing to say about him. I feel like there's a bit of brake pumping. That's all.
That's fair. Shams is asking like how many wins do we see him getting? Do we think the Stars are going to be good? Like, I think
No.
yeah. Like, oh no, I like the Stars. I think they're a good team. Like, I love that top line. I think while I said that Mason Marchman won't be a 70-point guy, I think he was like a good acquisition. I think it's honestly like fine to like send out John Klingberg and maybe have like Heiskanen take on that bigger role. Like, I don't know. I like Dallas. I think they have a really solid core. And we'll see, like, you know, how the rest, I guess, fills out. Like, let me just bring them up here quickly to see if there's any move from the offseason that I'm forgetting about. Obviously, like, it would help if, like, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin could get a little
That's
better.
the issue that I have with this team is that there's just a bunch of vets that seem to be taking up a lot of cap space, and they have a lot of really high end horses on this team. But I'm pretty worried about the mushy middle here. I think that. Listen, if Ottinger is the guy that he was in the playoffs, then this team could be very good, but I think it'll be because Ottinger's carrying them. This conversation is making me think that I should, since a lot of our league mates from the Bubupful are in this chat right now, Jake Ottinger on the table. I'll accept some trade requests.
Oh, okay.
I'll field some trade requests, I should say. I won't accept a trade necessarily. Anyway,
they might have some rookie that could come in, like Maverick Bork is someone I remember Saad Youssef was pretty excited about.
Who are you? Who's your pick? I feel like this is less interesting than who your pick is going to be.
Okay, my pick is going to be Elvis Merzlikins. Okay, so he's another guy I'm excited about as a volume player. They brought in like Korpisalo to be the backup again. I think at this point it's very clear that Korpisalo is just a backup. Elvis had a down year last year, only a 907 save percentage. Columbus like wasn't that good. He like in my beat writer interview about Columbus, it was talked about how like Elvis was really going through some personal stuff. Like he saw a friend of his like die last summer, which is going to be traumatic. Also, Columbus, by the way, brought in a player that we've talked about on this episode, Johnny Gaudreau, which I think makes the team better, maybe capable of scoring some more goals, which could maybe lead to some more wins. Also, their defense is pretty young. So, last year, like maybe there was a bit of a growing pains for like some young players, but now Boqvist is a year older, and that's not a guarantee that all of a sudden, just because he's older, he's going to be better. But that's what you hope, right? Like Boqvist, Jake Bean, both got some experience. Werenski has shown he's really great. So I just think like this team is starting to look like oh, they have Kent Johnson is going to come in, like, so I just feels like a team that's like going to be better than last year, and I think Merzlikins will be like better as an individual. So I think when it all comes together, volume guy, improving team, how could he not be better? So I think he's a really good I think he's a really good value pick. You're going to get him pretty late in drafts, and I think he could end up being, I don't know, similar to a Jake Ottinger, which I guess maybe is saying bad things about Ottinger, or it's saying good things about Merzlikins, or both.
I think I will push back just on the concept of like the team is going to get better. Like we've seen teams that seem like they're young and up and coming not improve year over year, and sometimes there are stumbles, and you could see chemistry issues affecting this team as they make some big changes. But I think that Elvis Merzlikins to me would be on a list of like guys who I could see being huge, but he feels like Cal Peterson felt to me last year, where it's like, okay, this team could be very good, and this guy has like shown in the past that he has the talent to be very, I'm saying this in a good way, by the way. I'm not saying like I think he's going to fall off like Cal Peterson did last year. I'm talking about like before the fall off, where we were on Cal Peterson.
Fair.
It felt very similar, where it's like, yeah, young team, really good prospects. Like it seems like they could improve, and why wouldn't he improve? So therefore he will. And I think that that's a fine take on Merzlikins. I think that there's also room for a drop off in Columbus. Like I think there's room for him not to improve here, because of course he's a goalie, and maybe there's more to just him not being an elite goalie than just having gone through some personal stuff. So I'm not saying that I don't like Merzlikins. I actually quite like him late in drafts. That's what I'm saying. I think he's a very good value pick for goaltenders late in drafts. I just don't know that I'm definitely not as bullish on him as you are.
Okay, well, yeah, who is a sure thing, right, as a goalie? And I guess the big difference with Cal Peterson, the reason why I was like scoffing so much is just like Peterson clearly still, and maybe we didn't believe it at the time, but he still had some competition from Jonathan Quick for who's going to get those starts. Like I don't see that competition in Columbus. But okay, Ben,
I'm not even trying to bring him up in a negative way. Like sure. I'm
Got it. So Ben, I mean, easy to poo-poo, and your goalie was a goalie that you think will be worse. But it sounds to me like I'm very curious to know, well, who's a goalie that you think will be better? Since Ottinger and Merzlikins don't make the cut.
This is a very fair question. It's actually off brand for me to say a good thing about a goalie. So but I will answer your question because I'm a gracious guest.
Let me guess. You're going to pull like a McDavid. You're going to say Igor Shesterkin's going to be even better than he was last year.
I would never talk about a New York Rangers adjacent player and talk about how good they are, because I'm not a homer. Having said that, Alexander Georgiev has an incredible opportunity to be an actually very solid player. Like he doesn't even have to be good at goaltending. He's just going to the team with the greatest defense possible and is looking like he's going to be a volume starter. So I mean, how could it not be Alexander Georgiev?
I mean, I guess I just don't see why you say that it's looking like he'll be a volume starter. I was kind of looking at it like a 1A, 1B situation, like him and Francouz maybe splitting time.
Because that's what people talked about. That was just the conversation about around the pickup, is that Georgiev is being brought in to be the starter. Francouz has not gotten an opportunity yet. Every season, I'm being told that if Francouz just got the starts, he would be the number one. This team, Jared Bednar clearly not giving Francouz the starts to this point, so I don't see any reason to just be like, yeah, now they're gonna give him the starts. To me, it's Georgiev. Okay. I think the upside is incredibly high. I think if I could, I'm not saying that it's guaranteed, and I don't even know if he's good. But it seems to me that he is being given an incredible opportunity here. And if you can get Georgiev, if you can get the starting goaltender of the Colorado Avalanche in the 12th round, 13th, 14th round, that sounds pretty good to me.
I mean, yeah, that sounds amazing to me. I just like haven't wrapped my head around him being like the sure starter. I really thought of it as like, they'll go into camp and we'll see who's better and maybe it's 50-50. So we're gonna have to get Peter Bao back on the podcast and get his opinion.
Agreed.
I'll send
Yeah,
him a message as soon as we're done talking, Ben, and
I
we'll
would
see.
love
But yeah,
that.
if at camp, yeah, there's either of them. Like I would put either of them, like Francouz or Georgiev. If one of them's doing well in camp and the other isn't, like, you definitely want to get that person in your draft. It sounds like Ben's very confident that it's Georgiev who gets the
Well, I
first
mean,
shot.
like, yeah, I have way more questions about Francouz. Like,
I mean, I
I
have
have
questions about Georgiev, to be
I do
fair.
too. I was just gonna say I do too because I mean I've watched him play most of his career in New York, but that's a team that bleeds shots against. He's going to the exact opposite team in terms of the way that they handle defense and the amount of the shot volume that goaltenders are asked to deal with. So I just wouldn't be surprised at all to see Georgiev become like your average, like the Cam Talbot type of guy, but with all of the wins, you know what I mean? And by Cam Talbot, I mean like just average stats, but like, but with Colorado type win.
Hey, I mean, that's like maybe a Darcy Kemper, even like Kemper was like amazing last year for fantasy, even though maybe he wasn't like the most reliable goalie
Mm-hmm.
for the team, but sometimes he would win like 6-5 or whatever. All right, Ben,
Yep.
this has been a blast, but I
Mm-hmm.
believe we've come to the end of the show.
Yes.
A lot of good suggestions here in the chat. So obviously the patrons and most of the people in this chat, I think everyone here in this chat is basically a patron and an active patron in the Discord. So let's keep the convo going in the episode discussion channel. If we want to talk about some more players and debate who we think will be better or worse than last year. It's really a wild time. We're in the middle of August. Like I said at the top, before you know it, it's draft season, baby. Like Keeping Karlsson's about to go into like, full force with our classic, like I said, Schmore Goalies board is coming. We're going to get Dom Lucian on a show to talk about projections. We're going to do our making fun of the Yahoo rankings. Like all the classic episodes are coming before you know it. We're going to have Victor Nuno to come on to talk about Calder candidates. We're waiting for some Vegas odds to drop so we can go through those like we always do. And yeah, of course, the big thing happening, like I said at the top, cupfuls. This is the league. This is the league you want to play in if you want to play in a competitive league and feel like you're getting the most out of your fantasy experience. We're gonna like you should even see the tools that Kevin is building. Like for people who played last year, this year's gonna be so much better. Like I'm so excited for you to see what Kevin is doing in terms of like we're gonna have this like site. I don't want to build it up too much because it's not like completed yet, but I think it's just gonna be so amazing to see like all the resources you'll have to see like how you're doing, like which players are added more or less than other players amongst like throughout the 30 plus leagues that we have. So it's going to be really wild. We're right now asking on the Discord for volunteers of co-commissioners. We want to have even more like engagement in each league. We're going to have people like watching over each league, making sure things are going well, and they'll report up the chain if something really big happens that one of the top commissioners need to deal with. But like you're not going to be in some league that no one's paying attention to. You're going to be in a league with like a league chat that's being kept active. It's going to be fair. It's gonna be fun. Okay, so that's enough pitching. Go to keepingkarlsson.com/patron, sign up to be a patron, and then we'll give you all the info you need to get into the cupful. Ben, one last thing we need to do. We mentioned at the top of the show that this episode is presented by Dobber Hockey, and we've got 5 guides. The famous Dobber Hockey guide that normally you have to spend, what, 10? 50? It's like not that expensive. Like if you don't win this giveaway, you should probably just buy one.
I think
But
it costs $59,000.
50, yeah. So you definitely need to join this. So Brent, I think the plan was to come up with a hashtag related to this episode, and then people will tweet at us with the hashtag.
Yep.
You know
I've
what?
got it.
You know what I would like better than a tweet is like, what about a 5-star review on iTunes? Okay, if you leave us a 5-star review on iTunes with the hashtag, that's worth 2. I don't know. No, that's not fair. Okay, either a tweet with the hashtag or a 5-star review with the hashtag. We'll look at both, and then we'll enter you
Wait,
into the draw.
why is it unfair? Why don't you just make it worth 2?
I don't know. I was thinking maybe someone's already given us a 5-star. Okay, if you tweeted us and you're like, by the way, I already gave you a 5-star review before, that'll also count as 2.
Let's make a second hashtag for people in that situation.
So we got to come up with these hashtags.
Yeah,
Do you have anything in
I
mind?
have the first one already. Number 1 with a bullet, hashtag ought or not. OETTORNOT. Odd or not. And let us know.
Sorry.
Let us know if you're into Jake Ottinger as a top 5 goalie in drafts or no.
Okay, but how do you spell it? I feel like this is hard.
OETT or not.
Oh my god, I feel like some people are going to do OET or not.
I mean,
Because hot or not is like 3 letters. I feel like it would be easier if it
That's
was
why
like,
I'm spelling it, Elon.
all right.
OETT. You know.
It's not easy to get into this draw, okay? Maybe we'll search for the other hashtag also, but OETT or not is one hashtag that
Yeah.
you can use. And
And then
you
the
said you had
second
another one
one,
in mind?
no, I have the first one, but the second one has got to be for people who are not who have already left a review. So it's got to be hashtag 5 stars in my heart.
Okay. I wonder if that's already something that's out there. I'm pretty sure "ot" with 2 T's or not is something that we can definitely claim to be our own. 5 stars. So is 5 stars spelled with a 5 or is it the number 5?
I think it's got to be with the letter, right? Or no? Yeah, number.
Okay, hashtag. I'm just searching right now. 5 stars. So you're saying the number 5.
Yeah.
Okay, this is good podcasting here. 5
This is
stars
really good podcasting.
in my heart. Is it like heart spelled like Carter Hart? Or are we doing heart?
Yeah, let's do that because there are 4 uses of the hashtag
All right.
ART.
So you have 2 options to join this giveaway, and you could either do it with a 5-star review, which is worth 2 entries, or with a tweet, which is worth 1 entry. And the tweet, though, if you include a screenshot of a 5-star review you've done at some point, and I guess we'll trust the person that's actually there. It's not just not screenshotting a random 5-star review. Okay. Anyways, that's all that. And your 2 options are "ot" or not, which is spelled OETT or not, or hashtag 5 stars in my heart, which is the number 5, then stars in my heart like Carter Hart. So we've made this really easy for everyone. So thanks everyone for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. Hope you win the giveaway. I'm talking to you, you know who I'm talking to. I hope you win the giveaway. Okay, and yeah, please subscribe to Keeping Karlsson because, like I said, we've got a whole bunch of shows coming. Still more beat writer interviews and some other fun content. Ben, thank you so much for coming back on. So excited for you and Lewis to get back to short shifts episodes. I guess come October, where twice a week for people who are new listeners to Keeping Karlsson. Ben and Lewis do a show. Brian and I do a mega show on Sunday, which we're going to split in like part 1 and part 2 next year. We get you started for the week. And then obviously we need some updates midweek. So Ben and Lewis drop a short show on Wednesday morning and a short show on Friday morning to make sure you're totally up to speed and making the optimal fantasy moves based on everything going on. And it's always amazing. It's called Short Shifts. All you need to do is subscribe to Keeping Karlsson on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever. You're gonna get all the shows. It's gonna be the best. We're gonna have a good time. So that's that. KeepingKarlsson.com/patron, of course. I already mentioned. So I guess let's cue the outro music. I normally cue to Brian to read the credits. Ben, do you have any, instead of reading the credits, do you have any final thoughts you want to share before we say goodbye? Should people follow you? Do you have anything you want to pitch?
Oh
Do you
yeah,
want people to check out?
You didn't let me plug myself.
Plug, please. The credits are playing.
Check me out on listen to Short Shifts. Thank you, Brian and Elan. Thank you to Dauber for sponsoring and sending us these guides to give away. We're really excited to do so. And thanks everyone for listening. I'm very excited to get back to regular podcasting again very soon. And oh my God, draft season, greatest time of the year. Very excited.
Yeah, I've already pointed out so many players that I'm thinking that I like that I'm just hoping that they'll fall in my drafts. But it's gonna be too many. I'm not gonna be able to get them all. And it's very exciting to start thinking about it. But yeah, thanks again for everyone. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. And until next time, just remember that if you have a moment, try to do everything you can to make sure that fantasy hockey is for everyone. Bye. Cool. What a fun show. Ben, you're the best.
You're the best. That was fun. That was fun.
I had fun.
We're the best.
It's even if it was a bad show, I had fun. So at the end of the day, who cares? Life is short. So I need to do things for me, right?
I mean, you are speaking to somebody who is very much thinking about and trying to handle a lot of questions like this in therapy right now. So hell yeah, Elan, sounds like you're on the right path. Your journey is going swimmingly, it sounds like to me.
Sweet. Okay. Well, yeah, I mentioned on the last show that I'm having a big life change coming up. So I'm just trying to enjoy my last summer as a solo. I don't know, not fully solo, but
Dink life is coming to an end.
Yeah. But
yeah, actually I didn't complain about this because I'm such a professional, but you very recently rejected my suggestion that we hang out this winter or this spring. I don't even remember what I said. I was yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
I was that because you were like, let's go to a game, and I was like, it's
Yeah.
hard for me to plan ahead
Yes.
when I'm gonna have a new
Because I
baby.
forgot you were having a baby.
Yeah, I mean, if you come to Toronto, I'm pretty sure I'll be able to carve out some time to hang
Oh
out.
yeah. Yeah,
If
yeah.
it's like me traveling to like another city
Yeah,
to go
no.
watch a hockey game, that might be a little harder.
I was not actually upset when you I was like, right, no, yeah, baby. Yeah, no, that
But
tracks.
it's too bad we messed up. Last year we were gonna go watch a OV game in Montreal, and then it just
Yes.
didn't work out. Did he
Friggin'
end up scoring in that game?
no, I don't
How
believe he
bad?
did.
All right, so we didn't miss anything.
It's the second time I was gonna go see an Ovi game, like basically had was like hovering on the buy tickets button and then didn't go and he didn't end up scoring. So I've been fortunate, I guess, in that way. But yeah, maybe hey, maybe the baby will come out the womb wanting to go see an Ottawa Senators game and we can meet in Ottawa and go see
Oh, I mean, I'll definitely be in Ottawa at some point. My family's gonna need some time, so if you're up for going there, then we could definitely make something work. That goes to all the people watching. Like, I'd be down to have a.
I regret saying that. Meet me in Montreal, please.
Oh, okay, fair. You don't want to hang with my family? We could
I
be. Also, we could bring out Joel, our new couple competitor. Tier. Oh, sorry, but like, yeah, Joel, my brother, will be there also. Who's a big
Yeah.
couple guy.
Ottawa.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone listening. Obviously, I was lying, by the way. Like live show people, like when I was like, oh, that's what I'm telling myself that it's all about having fun. But obviously, if people were to tell me this was a terrible show, I'd be devastated. So I really hope you had a good time.
Do not be mean to Elan. He takes this shit very seriously. He tries really hard and he does a great job. So be nice to him.
Okay. Let's end it here. Have a great night, everybody. And yeah, good luck. Talk to you soon.